Okay, so my name is Laura Klima. So if I didn't introduce myself before, so I've been in the district for 24 years. I started at middle school, math, language arts, social studies, and then came down as a reading specialist at elementary, fifth grade, and now this will be my ninth year in second grade. Many different hats on district committees and things along the way. So try to when I look at things like technology, I try to see how like a lot of us would use it in different formats. So although a lot of us would be using grade books and lesson plan books, I know we had some other people signed up as well that were like from district office. So if you have a specific feature that you hope this will do not hesitate to just jump in and ask, and we'll get there for you. Okay. All right. So we are going to start with navigation in Google and just getting there. Okay. So I'm just going to open up a blank tab at the top. You can do these things along with me, or you can just kind of sit back and take some notes, however you feel best as a learner, whatever works for you. If the things we're doing are a little too basic, you can even jump into some templates and whatever works best as you learn. So here in my new tab, there are a lot of different ways to get to a Google Sheet. So one thing that we're all familiar with now, we've been calling it the waffle. This is the app launcher. So if I go in my waffle, you can reorder these. Like if you use Sheets a lot, I use Sheets a lot. So I have it up here at the top. So if you're using that, you can just open up that launcher and you can click on Google Sheets right there. And it's going to bring you to the Sheets like landing page. Okay, so I can click here to get a blank one. Here is that home screen button. And over here, I can get back to docs or slides or forms, the other main Google functions over there. Okay, so that is one way to get there. Another way, I'm going to go ahead and go back to that blank sheet, is up here in the URL bar. If you're like, you know what, I want to pop up a sheet, I can, as long as you are logged into Google, you can just type in like sheet.new, and it's going to go ahead and bring up that blank sheet for you. It's going to go ahead and start that new blank sheet. Okay, so that's a pretty awesome way to get there as well. And one more place we're going to look at navigation is if we're in the app, let's say you're in your Google Drive. And as we're in our Google Drive and we hit the new button over in the top left, and I come down to Sheets, I can go to that. I can create a blank spreadsheet like we just did with sheet.new, or I can choose from templates. We will look at some of those templates in a little while. But since this was titled Getting Started, we are just going to jump into a blank spreadsheet first and take a look at some of the features and functions that we have in that blank spreadsheet. Okay. So whichever way is most comfortable for you to open up that sheet. Okay, so once we are in that blank sheet, up here at the top is where we're going to name it. In the top left, it has untitled. So I'm just going to call it a practice Google Sheet for right now. Name it whatever works best for you. This is auto saving as you go. So it's going to automatically save this into your Google Drive. Once I hit enter, you can see that that's saving and it shows me that it's saved to my drive. Then this whole section up here, this whole ribbon of tools is what we're going to look at next. Okay, so these have our shortcuts and our commands on them. The file, edit, view, insert, format, these are our menu. And down here below them, this is going to be our like quick access toolbar once you're familiar with what a lot of the features and functions are. It's our quick access. And then we always have the Sheets home button here. If I click that Sheets home, it's going to take me back into that home. Now, because I'm in my Sheets home, I can see all the different sheets that I have been doing. So we were just in that practice Google Sheet. So I'm just going to go right back into that same practice Google Sheet. It's in that list there. I don't have to go back and create another blank one. Although I could, that would be okay too. Okay. So when we're looking at Google Sheets, the basics of that is by default, you have 1,000 rows of data. I know that I personally do not use all 1,000 rows of data. And then we have 26 columns by default. So you can add that, but you've got 26,000 cells right there by default that you're going to be able to work with. So our rows going across. So I can click on the numbers and it will highlight that whole entire row for me, or I can click on a column. If I click on the letters at the top, and I can get that that whole column for me. Okay, there are some shortcuts and things in these drop-down menus that we'll look at farther. Okay, when I click on a cell, so if I am clicked right here, so I'm in column B4, I can always check that up here in this top corner. It gives me that cell name that I'm on. If I have a range of cells, I can drag and highlight across. It's going to show me the range over here. So that's always another, just a place that you can check and see what that cell name is that you're in to make sure you're typing where you want to be typing. Right there in the corner between the A and the 1, if I click on this here, I now have selected the entire sheet. So it's showing me that range up there, but that's how I can, if I want to select everything, if I want to unselect, just clicking it again is just, you're just reselecting it. So you can just click out of it anywhere to get out of having the whole sheet selected. That's going to be useful for, if you're trying to resize things all at once, that could be a place that you're going to do that. Okay, also, as we're looking at the main page at the bottom here, we can see that right now we have just one sheet available and it just named it sheet 1. So if I need more than one data sheet, especially if you're doing a grade book or a lesson plan book, this is going to be really helpful. I can just push on the plus sign and it has added that next sheet. I can name these. I can just go ahead and click on the menu button right there next to the name, and I can rename it like new. I'll just be like new sheet. So we can rename the sheets if we want to. And there were a lot of other features in there. I particularly love the color change. So like on my, I'll show you later, but in my planner, I have like all of my weekly plans for like May were all in blue. And so like I had the little blue bars going across, but all of my, let's see, in April, I had, a different color. I had like yellow. So I could kind of keep track just visually too. If you have a lot of sheets going across, there is also an arrow bar. If you get lots and lots of sheets, which you'll see in some examples, there'll be an arrow so that you can arrow through those different sheets at the bottom. And there'll be a lot of options within that. If you need to protect a sheet so that nothing happens to it, if you want to duplicate that sheet so you're not having to rework information, or you could even hide sheets. I actually use this feature a lot to hide the sheets. So a lot of features in there. Okay. All right. So we're going to be able to input information in our Google Sheet in 2 different places. You can either go right into a cell and type it right in the cell, and you'll see that it's coming up in this input field right up here in the top above the columns. We can also adjust that input field. If you're having a lot of information put in, you can actually drag this down and make that input field a little bit bigger if you're working with a different font size. So you can edit in this box here, or you can edit right in the cell. So whichever way works better for you. When I click out of it, then I'm going to have the input boxes for the current cell. So whatever the current cell is, that's where that input field is going to be showing me the information for. And let's see. Okay. Another good thing to look at is just the visibility of it, like the accessibility. So we do have that zoom. So if I'm typing in something in a box and I like really trying to get in that information, I can zoom in and make my work that I'm working on a little clearer. Or if I'm trying to see my spreadsheet as a whole, I can back that up and try to get all of that data at once. Okay, so that little zoom is a little bit helpful. All right, so usually the first thing we work with is going to be like headers, like you're trying to make information, so you might want some headers. I'm going to go ahead and delete this sheet. Again, I use a drop down. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. It gives you a heads up. Yeah, I want to delete that sheet. I don't need it. So one of the tutorials I watched had a really nice data set in it. And they just to have some numbers and some things to work with. So I'm going to create some headers based on that. You're going to find this data. We're actually going to copy paste it in a little bit. Right now, we're just going to work with the headers. So I'm going to type them in. But on the training page, when we get there in a minute, the first thing we're going to do, I put at the top, is this data sheet. So from this tutorial, this Teachers Tech video, they had a great data sheet for practice. So we're going to be using that one in just a minute. So that's where these headers are going to come from. So we are going to be ranking movie titles. So like my first header, I'm just going to do rank title, if you want to do those with me in practice. Next, we're going to do adjusted lifetime gross. So I'm just going to do ADJ, lifetime, and let me zoom in a little bit here. So I'm going to come back to this whole sheet here. I'm going to zoom. Let me get a little bit closer so we can see what we're typing in there. Adjusted lifetime, going to add the word gross in there. So I just double clicked. I often just type in the cell. I could have come up here to adjust what it said. My eyes tend to work best in just looking at the cells. You can see that this is going to hang off a little bit. That's okay. We'll work on that in just a little bit here. Okay, lifetime gross is going to be my next cell. Estimated number of tickets. And one more, we're going to do what year did those movies come out. I'm just going to give myself some headers to work with across the top. There's some things we can work a lot on, like just different formatting of it as we go. So I like to do it right when I put the data in. Other people might wait until they have more data and more things put in, but for me, it's helpful visually to have like all of that. So I want everything in row 1 to be bold. So I'm going to go ahead and bold that information. And maybe you even want like a different fill color. I don't want this whole thing to be a different color. I just want these cells to be a different color. So I'm going to come over here and select just those cells. So I clicked in the first cell and then I am dragging across. And then in my quick access bar right here, I have the little fill bucket and I'm going to make that, I'm just going to actually kind of make that a dark color, I think. If I like that dark color, but now I feel like that's really hard to read the words, again, I can just go ahead and highlight all of those cells. And instead of the fill, I'm going to come to the text color and I'm going to change that text color to white. So now I can still see that I'm just making it really clear for myself that these are my headers on my information or my data. And it's just one way to do that. I don't really like that I can't see this. I mean, I could come in between my cells and I could like drag this lower. That doesn't really do anything. So I need to work on that text wrapping. I could have it so that it comes down onto the next line. Or we can just go ahead and resize these columns. So I could come in between C and D, that's hanging off. And if I hover in between there, I can pull that over and make it the size that I want. Okay. I'm actually going to use my undo button and I'm going to go back to the way it was. You can also hover in between there and I can just double click. And now it has made all of them fit the text that is there. That is a huge time saver for me because I was one that was just kind of adjusting everything as we go. So I'm going to put that back for just a second. We're going to look at that again. So I'm going to just hover between that. And if I double click, it's going to adjust all of these to fit. And they're all going to be fitting that data at that time. Okay, so you can do that whole sheet like that. So if I have the whole sheet and I double click, it's going to make everything fit exactly. So now once I go to fit in some titles, you're going to be like, oh, that didn't fit anymore. And I might have to select the whole sheet again to do that double click and make it fit. But if I want to do like have it fit exactly, that's how I do it. We're going to click on the whole sheet and then we're going to just hover and double click. Okay, so now that we have let's see if I can make sure I get that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get that data sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and add in some data. Too many things open here. So I'm going to open up this data sheet. It's going to be a forced copy. So you're going to be making a copy of that sheet. And you can see on this practice data sheet, there were no headers or any information, but I do want all of this. So in order to get that information, I can just start right here in that first box, and I'm going to drag across that whole range and all the way down so that I can get all that data. You can use the shortcut keys to do the Control-C for copy, or you can right click and copy that information. I'm going to come back into my practice sheet. So I highlighted everything, right clicked and copied. You can kind of see the blue bar right now is the lines are kind of wavy and they're like, okay, you're doing something with the data. So I'm going to take that data into my next, I'm going to just click in that first cell underneath rank. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste it in. So now I have some data to go along with my headers so that we can kind of see what features and functions you can use in Google Sheets. Now I can see that that did not fit having it adjusted that way. So I'm going to go ahead and readjust. I'm going to click on my whole sheet. I'm going to hover in between and double click. And now it adjusts the columns for me to make everything fit. Yay, that was just like a big thing for me. I don't know why. Thought that was just really great. So now we're going to be able to find out like, oh, you know what? I didn't title this. I don't have anything on as the title. So we can go ahead and we can insert things above. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a title. So I'm going to click in row 1 and I want a title on this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert, and you can see some different options. I want to insert a row above. I actually don't want that to be green. I'm going to go ahead and go and unfill. I'm just going to come back here and make that white. I can reset or I can make that white again. Okay, so now I can go ahead and I can say I would like to type something in here. Oh, got white font. I got to go back and change that font color. As soon as I started typing and I didn't see it, I thought, oh no. So I'm going to go back, highlight, and change my font color back there. So I don't want it to just be over here. I would like my title to be centered. So I'm actually going to come across here, grab those cells, and we have a few things we could do. So we are going to merge those cells together. So I can come up to Format, and I can merge those cells together. It'll also let you, if you right click, you can get some of those options, but I want to format the cells. So I'm going to merge the cells. I want to merge all those cells together. So now it's like one giant cell right here, and I can center that in the middle. Okay. Again, you can make it bold. You could unbold it. You could change the font size or the font, whatever you want to do in that cell. And just kind of give it some different options there to kind of make that stand out for you. If I'm trying to, so inserting works the same way if you're inserting columns. However, now I have merged these cells together. So there's going to be some things I can't do unless I unmerge. So once you have merged some cells, it does kind of take a few abilities away in those columns. Like if you're trying to add in, I can't add something, in between because this merged cell is already there. Okay, we can adjust that. We've got all of that adjusted. And then we can even add some, like, let's just do some borders and things just to kind of see what that looks like. So I'm going to go, let's just do one box right now. So if I click on a cell, I'm on B3 right now. I can, in my shortcut bar, I can come up here and there's a little window pane. Okay, I can also do that under, under that format. I can also come to the format and work on those. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to work in my little window pane. So I'm in Gone with the Wind. And let's say I want a border around that. So now I can see that I've kind of made that dark border. If I don't want that there, I can come back and there's different options just around the outside. If I don't want the border, you can change the border colors or the border style if you want it to be like double lined or something. If I would like the border around all of that, I'm just going to highlight all that text and then add that border in. This is including the whole grid. This is I'm going to take that off. Let's see if I just want it to be around the outside. I can have it just around the outside. I tend to like having just lines going straight across horizontal. And again, you could make that a different color. Whoops, I didn't highlight that though. So let's get that going. With the border on all of that to be that dark green and make it a little thicker so that we can see that border. Okay. All right. So you can do some things with the border and format just to kind of help with that. Okay. So now here we're going to go through and we're going to see all like we're using a lot of data when we're using sheets. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the numbers and how we can look at the numbers in a different way. So in column C, we have all of these numbers, and this is dollars. So we're going to change that into currency. So I'm just going to click on row C to highlight that entire row. And I can, sorry, I can format and go to that, or I can go to my quick bar here and I have a dollar sign for that currency and I can click that and now it's changed all of that to currency. I did not want to have all those decimals in there. This is I find this to be a helpful tool a lot. I can go ahead and decrease and take away those decimal points, or I could have increased and say I do want to have the decimal points there. So that's a nice function to be able to get those dollar signs on there as we go. Okay. The real reason that we're using sheets so often is because you can do formulas in the sheet. So we're going to be taking a look. This also needs to be dollars. So again, I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to click on that currency and get that. So now, again, now it's kind of overflowing. I'm going to take away those decimal points and we're still fitting, so I don't need to adjust my sheet. So we're going to look at doing the formulas by, like manually, and then in a little bit we'll look at the functionality of it, just so we can, in case you're trying to create any of that, and then we'll get into some samples, and then you'll just have some time to kind of play in that. A lot of things that I use it for, a lot that I hope we can get to as well. Okay, so let me just pop into a new sheet here so that we're not messing anything up. And anytime you want it to do something with numbers, you're going to start with the equal sign. So I'm going to start by typing equal. So if what I want to happen here is 2 plus 2, I can just type that in. So I didn't actually enter 4 in that box. When I click on the box, I can see in the field, in the input field, that is actually, a formula that I have typed in of what I wanted to have happen in that field. So it's anytime you're going to start with an equal sign, and it's going to update that if you change any of the data. We're also going to be able to do that across different rows. So you can add those things together. We'll work on that. I'm going to come back in here and, oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back into the practice sheet and see how we do it across rows. So if I want this to say I would have equals, whoops, that's a plus sign. I'm going to have it equal. And then I want to say this, and I'm going to type the plus sign. So I'm actually typing in this box, even though I clicked over here. But because I put the equal sign, it's doing that function. So I'm adding this plus this. So now when I hit enter, currently that's 0. There's nothing in those cells. But if I change any of that data and make this 5 and 4, once I hit enter, let's see what's going on with our formula. So we should have B2, and then C3 did not pop up there. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, here's C3. I had typed it in the wrong spot. So when I clicked, I was off. So right away, I can use that formula and see what is going on. So I need to change this formula. I'm going to double click in there to get that and be like, nope, it's supposed to be this. So I'm going to double click. We're going to erase that cell, and we're going to click this cell. So now when we hit enter, now we've got our correct data showing up. And anytime I make a change, it's automatically going to make that change for us. And that's kind of the power there, is that the sheets can take care of all of your data, as long as you're putting in your formulas correctly. Okay, so we can go across and do that. So we're going to go back to our data, and we're going to practice inserting a cell so that we can have some of that information. So up here with column D, we're going to go ahead and take, and let's see the difference between this adjusted lifetime and the lifetime. And we're going to go ahead and add a column in. So to the right of D. So I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to insert a column to the right. And what we're going to be finding is the difference. So I'm going to type in difference. Then I'm going to go ahead and get that formula that I want. So I'm not using a function. I'm just currently just typing the formulas myself. So we're just hitting that equal sign. And now it's actually suggested it to me. Yes, that is what I want it to do. So if I look at that and I know that's what I want it to do, I can go ahead and click on that, or I can click this, and then I can push my minus, and then I can push it. So I can go ahead and use that auto feature it is suggesting that that's what I want for the whole column. It's correct. That is what I want for the whole column. But I could go ahead and accept it. I'm going to suggest that autofill, but I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to show you that you can do a series. So instead of, I could take this box. When I'm in this box, go back, undo button. There's our undo button. When I'm in this cell, I can go ahead and right click and copy, and then I could copy all these and I could hit paste. I'm not pasting the number, I'm pasting the formula because it's not really this number in the box, it is this formula in the box. So I'm going to do it a different way though, that is so much faster. I'm going to go ahead and undo this. I'm in this box and I'm going to see how this has the blue right here. I'm going to drag that straight down. And now it has copy pasted for me without having to use any of those things. It's actually also giving you some functions down here at the bottom. Okay, so I might have to make an adjustment. It looks like it used that border, so I could go back up and I could reformat that really quick and take those out of there. And then maybe just come back to this bottom one and add that back into the bottom. So looks like I lost my top. So there's sometimes you might have to go back and reformat some things. It also looks like we've lost our spacing. So I'm going to highlight here and just double click in between so I can get all of that spacing in the way I wanted it. Okay. All right. So that is if I am creating those formulas on my own. Okay. Another thing that we can do is we can, you could, if you weren't using currency, if you were going to do something else, you could like change it to the percentages. It doesn't, you can change that formula of how you're looking at the numbers, whether they're just numbers or if they're currency or percentages. You have that in your format, or you have your quick access right here. You can click here for all the types of formats, time, all kinds of number formats that you've got. A function that I use a lot is the freeze. You can freeze columns or rows. So let's say you had a lot of data. Like right now, all of our data is fitting on the screen. But let's say you had a lot of data. So I use this a lot, like in a gradebook function. So I'm going to click on row 2 here. And I'm going to go up to view. And I'm going to click on freeze. And I want to freeze up to row 2. And so now I have frozen these rows, and all the other rows I can scroll. So now I can look at my titles against my data a little bit more specifically. So that freezing of the rows or columns is really helpful. And then I can scroll through that. Okay. Another interesting thing that we can do here is, and I used this to kind of see if I have a template or someone else's spreadsheet and I want to see how that spreadsheet is working. A really cool tip is that you can view where the formulas are. So instead of seeing what numbers were typed in versus what is a formula. So I'm going to highlight that whole sheet. I'm going to go up to view, and I want to show the formulas. So instead of seeing the data, now I'm going to see the actual formulas that they used, and I can like double check the formulas that way, make sure that I have in my formulas correctly, they have the right cells, and then I can go back, I can undo, or I could view, show, and I can unclick that formula button, and I get my my data back in place. Okay. Okay, I tend to not want to have to input all of my own formulas though, so that is when we use functions. So functions are the formulas that have already been created for you, and you're just inserting those functions so that it can do what you want it to do. So just a little bit faster way to do what we're doing. So we can add some columns. Okay, we could insert. And on insert, we can find function, and it's going to have a whole list of the functions. So it's got the most popular ones up here: sum, average, counting, finding the maximum or the minimum value. But there's a lot of different functions that you can have spreadsheets do. That's from the insert. If I'm looking at it in the quick access, let me click away for a second. That's going to be this button right here on the end. This is your function button. If your screen is smaller and you're not seeing that, maybe you have the 3 dots for more. If you click on those 3 dots for more, then you'll see those other things that you weren't seeing, and the function button should be right in there. Okay, so this is just kind of your quick access, and you can also drag across there. So let's make let's find let's go ahead and find the average and or the sum, and let's use one of those functions. So let's go ahead and take this adjusted lifetime gross. Let's go ahead and find out the average of this. So this is the data I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and I just pulled straight down. I'm going to come down. So this is the box I want it to happen in. So here's the box I'm going to use. So I'm going to go to my function. I would like the average of this. So I'm going to click on average. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to drag through that. It brings that range right in there. I hit enter and it has made that average for me. So this is going to be something you're going to want to do in gradebooks, which hopefully the templates are going to help you a lot with that where it's already in there. Okay, so we can have that in there. We can get that data and it can average that out for us. So again, this is the cell I want that to show up in. I don't want to have to keep doing that and finding my function. So again, I can use this. And if I just pull this over, I am copy pasting it formula, not the number. I'm copy pasting the formula into that next box or as many boxes that I want to go into there. Okay. So we can get all of that information and I can find out all of those averages. So that's what we've created right there. Something else that I like to do in my grade books or as we are comparing data as a team is I like to look at it visually. So I might insert a graph of information. So I can make a chart. We can go to that insert graph, or in the quick access bar, we're going to see a picture of a chart right there. And that would be what we want to have. So if I wanted to chart, let's say I would like to know the title with the adjusted lifetime gross. So I'm going to go ahead and click the data that I want. If I don't want data that's all together, I can highlight this and then I'm going to hold control. And I really wanted to have that data instead. Okay, so I could make a chart of that data. So I can either do the data that's right next to each other, or I can have data. I just use the control button and I hold that down while I get the data that I want. So now is where I'm going to go up and I'm going to insert that chart, or I'm going to go to my quick access and click chart. And it brings up tons of different options. It brings up this chart that we can move around. It brings up your chart editor for you. So you can look and see, maybe you would rather have a line chart, and you can look at the different options of what kind of setup that you would like. Maybe you were looking at it as a pie graph. So you can kind of get the chart that you want in there. You can also title it. You can click in anything in here to title it, or you can click in here to title in both places. So at the top of that editor, I can customize. I can give text color. I can give background colors. There's a lot of different ways that you can change up your charts. I'm going to close out of that. And my chart is still there. I can drag my chart and move it to wherever I want it to be on the page. I also have options right in here. If I go back, I can download it. I can copy it. I can move it to its own sheet. So we have some options within that chart. So I find that really helpful when we're looking at like reading data. So like our team shares a spreadsheet, which we're going to talk about in a second. We share a spreadsheet and then we can sort it and graph it by teacher. And then that helps us, or by group of students, whatever groupings we have. And then we can get that visual representation right away. And that's really helpful to do. I'm going to go ahead and delete that chart for right now. Okay. All right. So before I get to all my little fun tips and trips, I have a few things left here just in the basics of, so like printing and sharing information. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to select by holding down. I'm going to drag. I'm starting in the top right, and I'm dragging over and selecting before I print. You don't have to do that. But if I go to File and Print, or you can do Control P for your shortcut, it's right down here at the bottom. When I pull this up, I can do current sheet, or if I had a lot of data, if I didn't want to do all of it, I could just do the selected cells. I'm actually going to cancel and say, what if I just wanted to show, because I have that movies, I'm not going to highlight that one. So if I only wanted this data, I could select just that, do my file print. Okay, right now, I'm like, wait, that's not what I highlighted. Over here, it says current sheet. I just want selected cells. So you can change in your print view what it is you are doing. You can have your whole workbook. If you have lots of sheets, you can print them all at once. You can do your current sheet, or you can do those selected cells. Landscape, portrait, you can fit to, I usually fit to width. You can do normal. You can fit it to the height, or like just depending on the amount of data, you can scale it to fit whatever you have. You can even make those margins as narrow as you can in order to fit more things on, add headers and footers. So there's a lot of options that you can do in the print. Oh, one other option. Let me go back. So when I click next, it's going to give me the option for that printer. One thing I could do is print it as a PDF. So if I don't actually want to physically print it, I just need a PDF of this information. I can, like, maybe to share out with someone else, I can share it that way in a PDF. I just click that there, and then when I save it, I'll just name it in my downloads. It's just basically going to download it for you. You can also do that in File. Right here, it has the download button. So instead of printing to PDF, you can download as a PDF. You can download it as a Microsoft Excel sheet. Often, if you're creating something in bulk, like for like mail merge, or in Canva, you can do a bulk create. It might ask you for a CSV. So you can type in like all your student names. And then when you come to download, you would go to the CSV, and that will download the right type of file for you to upload into Canva to create things in bulk, or with a mail merge. Another way to share that information with other people is you've got the same Google Share button that we always use. You can, here's anybody with the link, or you can invite specific people in. A nice feature on that, I'm going to show you guys. I think I might have closed. Oh, no. So here, this is a very overwhelming spreadsheet. These are all of the sessions and all of the links and everything that was being created for Summer Summit. Whoever was working with it decided to color code things as they went. So they were just using that fill button to be like, yes, I already did that with that data. We use checkboxes. I love checkboxes. I'll show you those in a second as well. But one thing you can do, if you have shared this out and you are working on it with other people, so like my team, we all have access to be working on it, not just viewing it. So one thing that you might do is you want to see if something has changed with that. So for example, yesterday, one of my sessions was not. There's also filters that you can use. So if I wanted to filter this, I'm going to go on line 2 here, and I'm going to filter by presenter. I'm just going to look for my name. So up here in that quick access, I'm going to do a filter. So I just want to filter for everybody, or I want to filter for me. I just want to filter it for me. It has merged cells in it. So it says I can't do that when there are merged cells. So because these boxes were merged, it's going to let you know what you can and can't do. So let me get out of there and check that one more time and see if it'll let me do that, because it would be faster if I filter. Nope, we've got something in there is merged. So I can't filter over something merged. I would have to unfilter that. So, but what I was going to show you, let's go down here, and I can just click on a cell and I can see, I know that mine was changed yesterday, so I was looking for mine, but I can just right click in a box. And just like you can see the version history of a document, you can also see the version history of a specific cell. So if someone else has changed that, so over here, you're going to see the cell version history, and you can see if someone else has. So right here, so this one has been changed. So I can show the edit history. So if you or someone else wants to double check, be like, oh, this person was the last person to edit it. Yes, that's the person it should have been, or no, or that data has changed. You can check individual cells. It's just kind of a nice backup if you're sharing it, to know that you can right click in a cell and see that edit history. It's just kind of a bonus little tip there. Okay. Another thing that I like to do, I'm going to go ahead and show you in my grade book really quick, in my plan book. So some things, this is a purchase that I made off of TPT. So here is my plan book that I use. I purchased it years and years ago. So I have hidden sheets on there, but one of the things that I like, this person had created it. They set it up as a calendar. So you can see they actually, you can drag cells to be bigger or longer. This person had set it up to have like a small one so they could have this, and then they had a few others so you could type in there. A little tip and trick that I learned this a couple years ago is, so when you have information that you're typing in, this lesson is going to be long and it will overflow. So it's going to overflow that box. So I don't want it to overflow. I can set everything to have text wrapping. I can even just do this cell. So I want this to format, and I can do text wrapping. So I can clip it off. I don't really care what fell over, or I can wrap it, and now it's going to wrap. So again, that is on our format. So if you're typing in a cell and it's going over, you can wrap that text. Another thing that I love to use once I learned about it is that you can actually, I always thought this was such a struggle because it was hard for me to format things. And once I learned this, so like if it's going a little bit longer, let me go back to our regular practice sheet that we were using, because those cells are not as big. So if something is going to go over, this will overflow, and I want to start, I actually want to go to the next line. I don't want to text wrap. Maybe I'm just going to hit shift enter. I'm going to control enter as I'm going through the box. Say I have a box that's this big, and I'm just going to hit control enter, and it actually lets me go to the very next line of that cell. So I can make separate lines within a cell. I don't have to use the overflow. So I can have this line, and then I can hit control enter, and now I'm on a second line within that cell. So when I was using my lesson plan book, I would often do this so that I could like have my 3 reading groups. I didn't have to have 3 separate cells. Like this whole cell was my reading groups, and I had what was going to happen with each of my reading groups right within that cell. So back in my plan book, I would have my full calendar view, and then I would have each week separated out. And I had a place for notes for myself, and I like to work down. So I had like my days of the week, and then each block here going across. And then, like as week to week changed, I could merge different cells. I could color code. It was very visual. And I could add links right in. So I would type some information, and then up here in my quick access, I would add a link on that and apply the link. So if I was showing a video, or I wanted to link to a file in my Google Drive, I can just link it right there and have everything within my access. If I was in May and I needed to go back and see something else, I can come over here and I can see all of my sheets, and I can scroll up and I can be like, you know what did I do in August? I can go back and I can unhide that August calendar. I can unhide any of the weeks that I want to unhide. Looks like I didn't type anything in during week 1. Week 1 was a blank slate for me. I knew we had a fire drill. So you can use those functions. You can see here that I have a lot more weeks than we had available. So you can scroll through those things as you need to, if you have a lot of them open. In my grade book, I want to show you how I use conditional formatting. So this is my favorite part of a grade book, is I can set it so that as I type data in, I didn't do it on all of them, but as I type data into a spreadsheet, I can set it. So like for me, I had my meets and my does not meet score. So I just really quickly at a glance wanted some red and green data there for myself. I didn't do that in all of them, but I did. Even in our, like, these are like their DRA levels or our iReady levels. We had a lot of different things there. So you can do conditional formatting. So right here, we'll go ahead and do this bar. So I want to use this whole column, and I want to format that so that when I type in a number, or if the numbers are already typed in, it's going to pop up whatever colors I want it to pop for myself. So it's under format. It's called conditional formatting. And then I'm going to, I actually did not want the entire row. Now that I did that, I'm going to hit undo. I actually just wanted it to be on these cells here. Let me go down to the bottom of my data. So I've got the range. I could just type that range in up here, but I went ahead and highlighted. And I'm in that conditional formatting, and I need to add a rule. So right now, it has decided if the cell is not empty, it's green. So that's the default. So I'm going to say if this cell is greater than, and then I'm going to say 7, it can stay green, and I'm going to click done. So now anything greater than 7 is going to be green. If I can add another rule, if the cell is between, and now I can tell the values it is between. If it's in between 4 and 8, then I want it to be, and I choose whatever color I want. Okay, and so now I have that. And I can see I still have some that are less than that. I'm going to add that next rule. If it is less than 3, less than 4, I think we did 4, right? Less than, did I say 3 or 4? I don't know. Let's see what happens if I mess up my formula here. Let me go. I can cancel it and check that. I had 4 and 8. So if it's less than 4, okay, we're adding it. If it is less than 4, now I'm going to have it pop in a red color for myself. Click done. And so now I can easily see at a glance which students I need to poll for groups, or get some intervention for, or get some extra practice, or pop them into IXL on those skills. So that conditional formatting is something that I use all the time. So filtering data, version history, collaborating. So then let's just go ahead and we have a few minutes left. I just want to show you those examples on that resource page that we have. Okay. So there are some really great templates right from Google Sheets if you don't want to start from scratch and create your own. So here is from the template from Google Sheets. This is a pretty amazing gradebook, to be honest. It has a great layover, and it has some formulas and functions that are working between the sheets. So here is an overview sheet that is going to tell you, like, you can input this information here. You can change the range. And so then that's going to, whatever you put the grades in at, it's going to give you, it's already got like graphs that are going to come from your grades. This is my actual gradebook page in there. As I type in the students' names, it's going to be creating individual reports for each of those students. This is already set up to be creating an average. And based on that overview, it's telling me the grade. The overview that we set here, it is giving that grade that you want them to have. So that's a really cool template that you can find. You can use this link, or you can do, when we went to the My Drive and we were on new sheets, here's where you find the templates. So Google Sheets templates under the new button. Okay. Another one, I'm going to skip one for a second. The other template here, there's an assignment tracker in the templates. Also has a lot of functionality. So I have all of my subjects listed here as kind of that overview sheet. And then my assignments, I can make it'll make drop down boxes. And I can say, okay, I have a math assignment, and I can title it. And then I have, okay, how am I doing on that? So this is kind of a really good tool if you have students, upper grade students, who need something to kind of help them. And you can list start and stop dates. And so that's using the function of formatting it for dates versus like currency or just regular numbers. So kind of just like a nice self-checker. Okay. Another one that they had is an attendance template. They used the freeze function that we talked about in this so that you can scroll through. I have it on a big screen right now. So don't really need to scroll. But if I had it on a smaller screen, I would be scrolling, and this is frozen. So I can scroll and I can see all of that information. And so they have a little code. They made a blue bar for themselves. So they gave themselves the directions at the top. You can, oh, one of the things I didn't show you, oh, is you can use dates. Let me find that blank page for you. So let's say I'm putting in a date. Let's see, today is 8/4/23. This doesn't just work for dates, it works for anything that's in a series. But so I'm on that box with a date. Let's say I'm making my plan book, whether it's across or down, it does not matter. I can drag that corner and it is going to continue the date series for me. So amazing. So amazing. So we used this when we did our like common plan. Like we just went ahead and had it. We just put in the first date, and then we just drug it straight down. And we had all the dates that we needed for, like we would do 1 week and then do the next week. So it's much faster than sitting and typing them all in. It does that for you. It actually will do that for any series of information. So like if I type 1 and then 2, and then I highlight that and I start to drag down, it's recognizing that I was counting, and now it's just going to add on and count on. So that sequence ability to do the date or any sequence that you have that it can figure out, and you didn't have to start at 1. It's going to figure out your pattern, and it's going to take that sequence and do that for you. So that's what they did here on that attendance sheet. They can get their date going across there, and then they can format it to just show the month and day. That's pretty awesome. Same thing. You could just copy paste the Monday through Friday. You don't have to make that over and over again. Right here is this grade book. This is created by another instructional technology teacher. She was teaching about gradebook. This is her gradebook that she has created. This is currently in view only, and you'd have to request access from her. Sorry, but she's got it so that you can have your student names in here. So she has a class information page. She has set up, it's just a great view to kind of see how someone else has organized what types of sheets. She has her homework, her assessments, her iReady, and now you can see she has so many sheets that she actually had to arrow over. She's got a parent communication sheet, her conference schedules. So she's keeping everything in one nice, grade book file for herself digitally. So she's got that. She's got a sheet for just class information, so she can check off, when their birthday is, what their home language, when they've received a certain award, so you can keep track of. So just a really great thing that Laura made that she was willing to share out. We have that IXL data recording sheet in here that we showed where it's got the graphing capability put right in. You could, modify this to fit what you're using. And then here is the one that I use. There's a ton of them online, but I just wanted to give credit to the one that I'm using. It's this teacher bundle. It's actually currently on a big sale. Look at that. But that has the planner. It has a lot of different functions, and it has the blank gradebook pages, kind of like what Laura had set up. It's got different pages in there that you can use. So, okay, it looks like we hit exactly on 1 hour, and I ran through every little thing that I was thinking about. So hopefully, hopefully you found something during the last hour that was useful. Does anybody have any questions or things they want me to try out? Or did I put everybody to sleep just talking for an hour? Okay, awesome. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank you. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording.